Ladies and gentlemen, rock fans, friends, family, people who just love rock music, welcome, MPJ. We are back for another album of the month review. Welcome to my wonderful esteemed colleagues, to David, to Ian, and to Paul. Welcome, gang.
Welcome.
Trish and Chris couldn't make today, but they have voted. But what's the show about? We review all the latest rock albums. Today we are reviewing Pearl Jam, and then we have secretly rated them out of 5, which we reveal in our results show. And will they get out to album of the month? Will they get into our album of the year? Will they get into our Hall of Fame? If they're going to kill more than 4, an average of 4 to get into our Hall of Fame. Today's a big one, guys. Today is Pearl Jam, and their album Dark Matter. If you've not heard of Pearl Jam, quick synopsis. They are an American rock band from Seattle, Washington, in 1990, or formed in 1990. The band's lined up consists of founder members Jeff, Soen, Mike McGreedy, Eddie Vedder. Well, we've reviewed Eddie Vedder before, and Matt Cameron, and keyboardist Boom Casper. What a lovely song from that one. So some interesting things here. Released in '93, Pearl Jam's second album V sold about 950,000 copies, but it didn't outdo their first album, 10. 10 stayed on the Billboard chart for 200 chart for nearly 5 years. Has gone on to become one of the most highly selling records ever, with 13 times platinum. Incredibly. Their third album, Mythology, in '94, became the second fastest CD in history of all time, with more than 877,000 units sold in the first week. This band has absolute pedigree. Now, who has the most pedigree amongst my illustrious tour? Well, it can only be the master of synopsis himself. Paul, what do you think, Pearl Jam?
Well, okay, so before we continue, if I'm talking to the audience now, if you're going to leave a comment that Nigel's internet connection could be better, that's because you haven't liked and you haven't subscribed and you haven't been able to afford a better connection. So that's the first thing you want to do. So I just want to get that out of the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, people like to subscribe and I make tons of money out of this. Never going to happen.
A little bit, just to improve your internet connection. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, once you have 2 teenage daughters surfing the internet, that's probably why. What do you think of Pearl Jam?
Okay, let's talk about Dark Matter, because it's a unique subject in a way, because basically currently astrophysicists and mathematicians are saying that there must be dark matter to make the calculations work about the Big Bang and everything out there. So, and it's the stuff that no one can detect and knows about, that's holding the universe together and validating all the things. So what does Pearl Jam mean by dark matter? I'm not quite sure. Is it the gel that holds all the music together? Because even though they've got a long history and they've got good pedigree, they have mixed up the music of the others to some of it being hit and miss. But anyway, this is their 12th studio album, and after a number of years of experimenting, shall we say, they've decided to make Dark Matter a punchy and heavy-hitting album, hailing back to their roots, but also an accumulation of the new song pursuits. It creates a heady and autonomous with tracks like Scared of Fear and Respond and Dark Matter. That is not to say the album doesn't have its fair share of slower and moodier songs, such as Set in Sun and Wreckage, making it a much stronger album. If you're on the fence, give Dark. It's a grower.
I do apologise for my internet connection. You're absolutely right. David, what do you think of Dark Matter?
Dave.
No,
I'm in trouble. Only my parents call me David when I've done something wrong.
Sorry, David.
I
think you might be about to.
I quite like Pearl Jam without ever really having listened to any of their albums previously. I've got to admit, I know all of the songs that they're well known for, and sort of, I was in my teenage years in the 90s, so it's not like I would have been able to avoid them. This album, I really enjoyed it. but I think his vocals are just a bit Marmite for me. And that's probably why it's a good job I've never listened to any of their albums before, because I don't think I can handle his vocals for a whole album. I think I struggle with it. There's just that sort of quality about his voice that, after about sort of 10, 20 minutes or so, I'm like, it's starting to grate on me a little bit now, which is a real shame because there's some great songs on this album. There really is. And, the songs are really well performed. As you say, how many albums did you say? What's the 11th album now, I think you said, was it?
12.
12, yeah. So, they're experts at what they're doing now. That they've been there, they've done it, they've got the T-shirt, they know what they're doing, and this proves that. But as I say, I'm just not a fan of his vocals, and I think that ruins it for me, unfortunately.
Now, somebody whose vocals never ruin it for me, because they're so beautiful and dulcet. Only Chris isn't here, so we'll turn to Ian instead. Hi, Ian. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think about Pearl Jam, my friend?
I thought you were going to ask Paul for a second opinion there for a moment. So, it's really funny you saying David, and David was like, well, I'm in trouble. All right. Ian, what do you short that to? E? Oh, sounds awful. Never mind.
Normally Git, but we'll move on.
Yeah, I've got fear of missing out now. I've got, FOMO. Pearl Jam. So, there are a lot of things, and I've been quite vocal about this in the past, about male-dominated sexual themes that come from the 80s and 90s that have no place in society today. The name of this band absolutely fits in this category, but has every place in this society. It's one of the best rock band names ever, Pearl Jam. It's brilliant. And if you don't know what Pearl Jam is, then I'm not going to tell you. Ask your mum, ask your dad, ask your brother, ask your uncle, whatever. It's I've never listened to a Pearl Jam album ever. Dave, thank you for giving me the confidence and courage to come out and admit that publicly. And some people would say, what the hell are rock reviewers doing when they've never listened to a Pearl Jam album? And other people will be saying, well, absolutely, that's absolutely right. Because I think they are. You knocked on the head, they're Marmite. There's so many things about them that you either love or hate. The commercial success, the vocals, the changing up. Have they sold themselves out? Are they just, going on? Is this a tax album? Dark matter that binds us all is, unexplainable tax. Where does that actually get spent? So, so many bands have to do their tax tour or their tax album. So this could be that. That being said, it's a little bit harsh because it isn't a bad album at all. It's just not what, when you haven't listened to a Pearl Jam album, you only listen to the big hits, you're going to get let down listening to a whole album, right? Because it's not going to be an album of their greatest hits. That being said, oh my good Lord, I really loved Waiting for Stevie. Oh, that's a brilliant track. Absolutely brilliant. I listened to that over and over and over again. I'm just gonna try and get back into Spotify and look at the track list. Dark Matter, Wreckage was absolutely brilliant, and React Respond. I thought they were what we. They're synonymous. That sound is absolutely that. If you want that synonymous Pearl Jam sound, those are the tracks you want to listen to. But don't miss out the other tracks as well, because there's some really good stuff in there. There's one or two tracks in there, but I quite like his voice, and I think it is Marmite. You're right, Dave. Absolutely. And I was pleasantly surprised. I just wish my first Pearl Jam album was 20 years ago or 25 years ago rather than just now. So I think I'm going to create a Pearl Jam playlist of all their albums, and on my drive back down south, blast out. So, sorry, Claire, we're listening to Pearl Jam all the way back down to Wolverhampton.
Right. Album of the month for me. Fantastic album. Absolutely flipping dark, heavy, but superb melodies, lyrics, and personally, I loved his vocals. I think it suited the tempo, it suited the heaviness of the album. Dark Matter and Scared of Fear, my two standout tracks. I couldn't get away from this album, and it set me up because again, oh, brilliant! It saved me this month. This album did absolutely save me. It was just yeah, for me, it was an absolute cracker, and I loved the fact that because I quite love like things like, you know, one of the things about Pearl Jam in the past, I thought they were a bit too pop rock, whereas this wasn't. This was, as Paul said, it's going back to maybe the roots, and I haven't really kind of listened full into Pearl Jam's albums in the past. And maybe I should, because I absolutely adored this album. I thought it was absolutely terrific. Really did. Everything about it. Couldn't get enough. Repeat. Probably listened to it over 10 times. But then nothing else kind of grabbed my attention to a degree for this one. But yeah, brilliant. Fantastic album. Absolutely loved it. So did so Trish. Didn't like it. Somewhere in the middle. Thought it was distinctly average, really. I think just to sum up, this is not to say Pearl Jam's fans won't like this. They probably will. See, there's a solid offering, but it just didn't kind of. It just didn't kind of get it. And she said she wanted a bit of beef, and I thought this was kind of heavy. I'm surprised that she didn't like it. But there we go. Chris thought it was all right. So yeah, pretty solid all round, really. I think is the taste. Will it get album of the month? Find out. Tune into our album of the month show where we reveal our ratings. I think it's going to be up there battling for it by the look of it. So we'll wait and find out. Thank you today to my panel, to Paul, to David, to Ian, and we will be back with yet another review. Goodbye, everybody.